From the moment Rome emerged from a collection of humble huts on the banks of the Tiber River, its story became one of the most remarkable transformations in human history. This is the tale of how a small community, born from myth and hardened by conflict, rose to dominate the known world and create an empire whose legacy still shapes our lives today. The origins of Rome, like many ancient civilizations, blend legend with archaeology. According to Roman myth, the twin brothers Romulus and Remus were the children of Mars, the god of war. Abandoned as infants, they were rescued and nurtured by a she-wolf. When they grew older, they chose a site on the Tiber to build a city, but the brothers soon quarreled about who should rule. In the end, Romulus killed Remus and founded the city that would bear his name, Rome. Of course, the real story is more complicated. Early Rome grew out of a mixture of Latin, Sabine, and Etruscan cultures, each contributing to the forming identity of the city. Archaeology tells us that what became Rome was originally a cluster of hilltop settlements, each controlling its own small territory. Over time, these communities unified, whether through cooperation or conquest, and the early Romans began building the foundations of a powerful society. They drained the marshy valleys between the hills, creating the Roman Forum, which would become the heart of political and social life. In its earliest phase, Rome was ruled by kings. Some of these kings were likely historical figures, others were remembered more for the values they represented than for actual deeds. According to Roman tradition, the kings oversaw major developments, religious practices, early laws, and public works. But by the late 6th century BCE, the Romans had grown weary of what they considered tyranny. The last king, Tarquin the Proud, was expelled after a scandal involving his son. This event marked the dramatic birth of the Roman Republic. The Republic was a bold political experiment. Power was no longer concentrated in the hands of a single ruler, but shared among elected magistrates, a powerful Senate composed of Rome's elite, and assemblies where citizens voted on laws and officials. Though it was far from democratic by modern standards, the Republic was impressive for its time. Checks and balances, term limits, and overlapping responsibilities helped prevent any one person from gaining too much power, at least in theory. The Romans were fierce competitors, and this competitive spirit helped drive the Republic's expansion. They fought, negotiated, and allied their way to dominance over the Italian peninsula. The Roman legions, well-trained, disciplined, and adaptable, became the backbone of Roman power. But Rome's rise was not only due to military might. The city also had a unique ability to absorb conquered people, offering many of them citizenship or limited legal rights. This inclusivity helped bind the Republic together and create a shared Roman identity, but a far greater challenge awaited Rome: Carthage. Located on the coast of North Africa, Carthage was a wealthy and powerful maritime empire. It controlled vast trade networks and had one of the greatest navies in the ancient world. The rivalry between Rome and Carthage sparked the Punic Wars, 3 massive conflicts that lasted more than a century. The most famous of these wars featured the Carthaginian general Hannibal, who led his army, including war elephants, across the Alps to invade Italy. Hannibal won battle after battle, inflicting devastating losses on the Romans. Yet the Republic refused to surrender. Roman resilience became almost legendary. Even after catastrophic defeats, they raised new armies, found new generals, and refused to negotiate. Eventually, Rome took the fight to North Africa. Hannibal was recalled home, defeated, and Carthage was forced into submission. But Rome wasn't done. Decades later, suspecting that Carthage might rise again, the Romans launched a final war. This time they destroyed the city completely, razing it to the ground. With Carthage gone, Rome was firmly in control of the Western Mediterranean. As Rome expanded into Greece, Spain, Gaul, and parts of the Middle East, immense wealth poured into the Republic. But this sudden abundance came at a cost. The gap between the rich and the poor grew dangerously wide. Powerful generals became celebrities, adored by their troops and feared by politicians. The Republic's carefully balanced political system began to strain under the weight of ambition and rivalry. One of the key figures in this turbulent period was Julius Caesar. Born into a noble but not particularly wealthy family, Caesar combined political brilliance, charm, and ruthless determination. His conquest of Gaul made him one of Rome's most celebrated generals, and one of its most dangerous. When his political enemies tried to strip him of power, Caesar led his army across the Rubicon River, sparking a civil war. His victory made him dictator for life, a title that alarmed many Romans who still valued the ideals of the Republic. On the Ides of March, 44 BCE, Caesar was assassinated by a group of senators who believed they were saving Rome from tyranny, but instead of restoring the Republic, they plunged the city into yet another civil war. This struggle would last for years, drawing in some of Rome's most powerful figures: Mark Antony, Cleopatra of Egypt, and Caesar's adopted son, Octavian. In the end, Octavian defeated his rivals and became the undisputed ruler of Rome. But unlike Caesar, he understood the importance of subtlety. He had no desire to call himself king or dictator. Instead, he adopted the title princeps, meaning first citizen, and carefully maintained the illusion of the Republic's institutions. The Senate still met, elections still happened, but everyone knew where the real power lay. Octavian took the name Augustus, and with him began the Roman Empire. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered a period of relative peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For roughly 2 centuries, the empire flourished. Cities expanded, roads and aqueducts transformed daily life, trade networks stretched across continents. The Mediterranean became what the Romans called Mare Nostrum, our sea. Roman culture spread far beyond Italy. Latin became the language of administration and law. Roman architecture, arches, domes, amphitheaters, appeared in cities from Britain to Syria. Even where local customs survived, they often blended with Roman ideas, creating new hybrid cultures. But no empire lasts forever. Over the centuries, the Roman Empire faced mounting challenges. Economic problems, political instability, corruption and epidemics weakened its core. The vast borders proved harder to defend as rival powers and migrating peoples pressed on all sides. Emperors came and went, some competent, many disastrously ineffective. In the late 3rd and 4th centuries, the empire split into 2 halves: the Western Roman Empire, based in Italy, and the Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople. The East thrived for centuries more, but the West struggled. By the year 476 CE, the Western Empire effectively collapsed when its last emperor was deposed by a Germanic leader named Odoacer. Though many historians debate the symbolic nature of that moment, it marks the traditional end of ancient Rome. Yet Rome's legacy was far from over. The Eastern Empire, often called the Byzantine Empire, survived for nearly another 1,000 years. Latin formed the basis of the Romance languages: Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Romanian. Roman law influenced legal systems across Europe and beyond. The Republic's political ideas, from checks and balances to civic duty, helped shape modern democratic principles. Even today, architecture inspired by Roman engineering stands in cities across the world. So how did the Roman Empire come to pass? Through a blend of myth and history, ambition and resilience, innovation and conflict, it rose from a small settlement by the Tiber to become one of the most influential civilizations the world has ever known. And though its political power faded long ago, its cultural and intellectual legacy remains alive in the languages we speak, the buildings we admire, and the ideas that guide our societies. Rome may have fallen, but in many ways it never truly disappeared.